environments on Earth. Although this makes exploring the region challenging, the ice holds many secrets that could help us to understand the climates on other planets. Scientists are largely focused on researching how certain forms of life, no matter how small, are able to survive and even thrive in such a hostile, barren, and stunning place. Number 10. 200-year-old skull. In 1985, a unique skull was discovered on Yamaha Beach at Cape Shirreff in Antarctica's South Shetland Islands. It belonged to an indigenous woman from southern Chile in her early 20s, thought to have died between 1819 and 1825. It was the oldest known human remains ever found in Antarctica. The location of the discovered skull was unexpected. It was found at a beach camp made by sealers in the early 19th century, near remnants of her femur bone. Yet, female sealers were unheard of at the time. There are no surviving documents explaining how or why a young woman came to be in Antarctica during this era. Now, at nearly 200 years old, the skull is thought to align with the beginning of the first known landings on Antarctica. Number 9. Mawson's Air Tractor. The plane, the first off the Vickers production line in Britain, was built in 1911, only 8 years after the Wright brothers executed the first powered flight. It was taken to Antarctica by Douglas Mawson, the Australian explorer, but abandoned in 1914 after its engine seized up during attempts to use it as an air tractor, a motorized sledge. For the past 3 years, a team of Australian explorers has been engaged in a fruitless search for the aircraft, last seen in 1975. A carpenter with the team, Mark Farrell, struck gold, wandering across the icy shore near the team's camp, sitting among the rocks just a few inches beneath the water. Number 8. Oldest sperm. Benjamin Baumfluer can't help but laugh a little when talking about his latest record-setting discovery. A 50-million-year-old worm sperm from Antarctica, he said between chuckles. Who would have thought that's possible? And yet, what Baumfluer, of the Swedish Museum of Natural History, and other researchers stumbled upon was a serious discovery: the oldest animal sperm ever found. As it goes with many great discoveries, this wasn't what they were looking for. While on an expedition on Seymour Island in the Antarctic, Thomas Moores, a paleobiologist at the same museum, was looking for signs of small mammal bones when he discovered a fossilized cocoon. Remembering that cocoons like this often carried notable remains of plants, he passed it along to Baumfluer, a fellow paleobiologist. Baumfluer took it and started looking for plant remains. That's when he noticed the long, fragile remains of what appeared to be a sperm. Through radiometric dating, it was determined that the cocoon and its contents were at least 50 million years old, making the sperm the oldest fossil animal spermatozoa yet identified. Number 7. Fossilized forest. It was summer in Antarctica, and Eric Gulbrandsen and John Isbell were on the hunt. Bundled up in parkas to brave the negative temperatures, fierce winds, and blinding days of 24-hour sunlight, Gulbrandsen, Isbell, and an international team of researchers searched for fossil fragments. In a small part of Alexander Island on the west coast of the Antarctic Peninsula, ancient fossil trees that date back 100 million years can be found, with logs up to 7 meters high, 23 feet, still standing upright. The roots of these coniferous trees are still attached to the carbonaceous soil deposits today. Their root systems indicate that these trees thrived on the rich plains alongside large meandering rivers. However, the coarse sand that buries the trunks shows the power of floods in the area that eventually covered the whole plain in thick sediment. In fact, the area was dominated by evergreen species and had a temperate rainforest of about 75 degrees Celsius, while today this latitude is cold and frozen. Number 6. Blood Falls. Imagine a snowy mountain having a bloodbath in between. Sounds like something unnatural, right? Well, here you have the blood-red waterfall staining the White Taylor Glacier. The Blood Falls of Antarctica may have been a mystery for quite a while, but is not anymore, thanks to researchers and glaciologists who said that this occurrence was due to iron oxide, basically rust, which was present in the water. The water, which flows from the lake, creates this red hue, and making it look as if blood is flowing out into the water. Number 5. Pegasus Wreck. On October 8, 1970, the pilots of the Pegasus, a C-121 Lockheed Constellation plane, knew they had a problem. A fierce storm was ravaging the air above Antarctica, but they were forced to fly onward, a lack of fuel making it impossible for them to boomerang back to New Zealand. The wind caused the aircraft to thrash around and beat the plane so hard it ripped off pieces of its exterior. Soon, the Pegasus was dropping toward the frozen desert below. It crashed atop the ground and skid along the ice before finally drawing to a halt. Miraculously, the 80 people aboard survived the plane crash with no major injuries. Now, anyone who happens to find themselves near the McMurdo station can try to take a trip to the crash site. The Pegasus is still there, resting beneath a blanket of snow. Most of the plane is usually covered by layers of ice and snow, though people do like to unbury it and take photographs or carve their names onto its exterior. Number 4. Wilkes Land Gravity Anomaly. A massive object that could potentially change our entire understanding of history may be lurking underneath the Antarctic ice, say scientists. The so-called Wilkes Land Gravity Anomaly was first uncovered in 2006 when NASA satellites spotted gravitational changes, indicating the presence of a huge object sitting in the middle of a 300-mile-wide impact crater. Some researchers believe the anomaly could be the remains of a giant asteroid, the size of which far surpasses the one responsible for wiping out the dinosaurs. Sounds plausible. Meanwhile, in the tinfoil hat camp, speculation is rife that the mystery object is in fact a UFO, or possibly even a secret Nazi base used for clandestine activities during the Second World War. The area is 151 miles across and has a minimum depth of about 2,700 feet. If we were to believe the giant asteroid theory, it could mean that this object caused the Permian-Triassic extinction event, which killed 96% of Earth's sea creatures and up to 70% of land-dwelling organisms too. A perfectly plausible explanation, but you've got to admit, it could do with a few more aliens in there to spice things up. Number 3. Ancient creatures. Much to their surprise, scientists in Antarctica have uncovered what appears to be remnants of tiny animals in mud, dredged from a lake that has been covered by a thick mantle of ice for thousands of years. The researchers on this expedition, known as the Subglacial Antarctic Lake Scientific Access, or SALSA, are the first to sample Lake Mercer, a body of water about 600 kilometers from the South Pole. After drilling about a kilometer through the ice in late December, researchers lowered the instruments that brought water and sediment up to the surface. Looking at these samples under a microscope, the team found some things that looked like squished spiders and crustacean-type things with legs. Some other things looked like they could be worms, says expedition member David Harwood, a micropaleontologist at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. The researchers also spotted what appeared to be the vestige of a famously durable microscopic critter called a water bear. Examining the DNA of these remnants will help researchers ID them more precisely. Number 2. Mars life. In 1996, researchers led by David McKay, Everett Gibson, and Kathy Thomas Caperta from NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston suggested that they might have found microbial fossils in a meteorite from Mars known as Allen Hills 84001. The meteorite was first discovered in 1984 by geologists riding snowmobiles through the Allen Hills region of Antarctica. Scientists think ALH 84001 originally formed 4 billion years ago on Mars and landed on Earth about 13,000 years ago. The magnetite particles are not known or expected to be produced by non-biological processes. As such, the study team members said these crystals might constitute evidence of the oldest life forms known, with profound implications for the presence of life in the universe. Who knows? It could be that one day, the best evidence for life in outer space will be found lying on the ground in one of the most hostile places on the planet. Number 1. Neutrinos. For the first time, scientists have been able to trace the origins of a ghostly subatomic particle that traveled 3.7 billion light-years to Earth. The tiny, high-energy cosmic particle is called a neutrino, and it was found by sensors deep in the Antarctic ice in the Ice Cube detector. Scientists and observatories around the world were able to trace the neutrino to a galaxy with a supermassive, rapidly spinning black hole at its center, known as a blazar. The galaxy sits to the left of Orion's shoulder in his constellation and is about 4 billion light-years from Earth. Scientists say the discovery heralds a new era of space research. Doug Cowan, a founding member of the Ice Cube collaboration, said in a statement, For 20 years, one of our dreams as a collaboration was to identify the sources of high-energy cosmic neutrinos, and it looks like we've finally done it.